Good morning, everyone. You are listening or watching live as the Public Works Committee is about to begin. For those of you listening live, this is the first time I've ever done a audio-only feed, so if there are any problems, please feel free to email or tweet me and let me know. I haven't bought some additional equipment that will allow me to better monitor the audio stream, so I'm relying on it working, and if it doesn't work, please let me know.
Stated hour, we call the Public Works meeting to order. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are webcast live by the City of Hamilton and temporarily archived on the city's website. Other individuals and the media may also be audibly or visually recorded at this meeting. We have a ceremonial activity today. The Scott's Miracle Grow Company and Communities in Bloom have awarded the City of Hamilton a national grant focused on improving cities through the development of community gardens and green spaces. The 2014 Gardens and Green Space Grant will help build an outdoor classroom, teaching garden and nature areas at the Norman Pinky Lewis Parquette and Kathy Weaver School. The project will feature raised beds and container gardens, fruit trees, compost bins, barrels for gathering rainwater, an outdoor classroom, butterfly gardens, and reading space. The City of Hamilton received the award in collaboration with the Rotary Club of Hamilton, Weber Corps, and the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board. I invite Karen Stevenson with Scott's Canada and Raymond Carrier with Communities in Bloom to come to the front to deliver a short presentation and present the award to staff. I also invite Craig Murdoch, Tennessee Pedo, Alex Moroz to come forward to receive the award.
Good morning. My name's Karen Stevenson. I'd like to say, first of all, thank you, councillors and the city, for the opportunity to speak today. I am a Hamilton girl, born and raised, and it's always good to be back in Hamilton to visit. So we're very excited to join the City of Hamilton in helping to support the Weaver Corps and Pinky Lewis Parquette Extreme Makeover. The Scott's Miracle Grow Company is the world's largest producer of products for helping people to grow and enjoy their plants at home. Instilling a love of and respect for nature is at the core of our existence. We want people to experience the pleasure of growing plants and nurturing them. Scott's Canada, a subsidiary of the Scott's Miracle Grow Company, is headquartered in Mississauga, Ontario, and is not only a leader in the lawn and garden products segment, but also we pride ourselves in our commitment to environmental stewardship, to consumer education, and to being a strong community partner. To help our home gardeners succeed, we produce innovative, effective, and environmentally sustainable products. A few things that you might not know about us. Scott's Miracle Grow is North America's largest recycler and reuser of green waste and compost, returning these materials back to the soil through our Miracle Grow growing mixes. Our Scott's Naturescapes mulch takes leftover materials from virgin wood producing and creates color-fast mulch, which is not only an effective natural weed suppressant, but also helps to reduce municipal water usage by keeping soils moist. Our Scott's No-Filler Turf Builder Lawn Food and Miracle Grow Plant Food are formulated to provide the nutrients that plants need to succeed without waste. And our Scott's EcoSense line provides gardeners with the option of effective products based on natural ingredients for their lawn or garden. At Scott's, we believe in the importance of helping children to create a deeply rooted love of nature and a desire for healthy living. Our commitment to the garden and green space development in Canada includes Grow 1000, which is our community outreach initiative to establish 1,000 gardens and green spaces by 2018, which is the 150th anniversary of our company. Grow 1000 will result in 1,000 community gardens across Canada, the U.S., and Europe, and we're glad to say that to date, Canada has contributed 33 gardens to this commitment. I now have a short video, which I'm going to show to explain a little bit more about the program.
Miracle-Gro is helping communities around the world enjoy the benefits of gardens and green spaces through its Grow 1000 initiative. Launched in 2011, Grow 1000 is Scott's Miracle-Gro's commitment to create 1,000 gardens and green spaces in Canada, Europe, and the United States by 2018, the company's 150th anniversary. Scotts Canada is proud to join that commitment by planting community gardens and green spaces across Canada, joining similar projects undertaken by Scotts internationally. These gardens help improve the economic vitality of the area, provide access to fresh produce for communities and local food banks, and engage both youth and seniors in the benefits of gardening.
There, perfect, excellent.
The first two gardens, constructed under the Scotts Canada Grow 1000 program, are located in Brampton, Ontario, and Kamloops, British Columbia. In 2013, the program grew with the construction of the Goodwill One Tomato Community Garden in Sarnia, Ontario.
There you go, all right.
For each of these gardens, a section of a local green space was transformed into a place where young people can learn about nature, plant life, and gardening. Scotts Canada donated the needed lawn and garden products, organized volunteers, and provided monetary support, making an overall contribution of $10,000 to build each garden.
How much is that? Okay, I need some water.
Local and provincial leaders joined volunteers and community members for official groundbreaking ceremonies, where students, teachers, and community partners got their hands dirty building the gardens.
Now let's get our hands dirty and get into the garden.
The Grow 1000 partnership aims to provide community residents an opportunity to experience the collective benefits of creating, nurturing, and reaping their own garden harvests. It is also part of Scott's larger dedication not only to the development of gardens and healthy green spaces, but also to overall environmental stewardship and sharing a passion for gardening.
Are you ready to have some fun?
Yeah!
Are you ready to plant?
Yeah!
Are you ready to garden?
Yeah!
So as mentioned in the video, we do provide grants. This year, I'm pleased to say that we increased our grant amount to $15,000, and that is the amount that is going to be used in the Weaver project to create the gardens and the outdoor classroom. We all share in the knowledge and understanding of the environmental, social, and physical benefits that gardens and green spaces bring to our community, including offsetting pollution, bettering access to fresh produce, increasing physical activity, and lowering stress. Studies have shown that in neighborhoods where gardens are present, safety actually increases noticeably. The Weaver Core Showcase Garden and Outdoor Classroom is part of the city's Extreme Park Makeover. On June 20th, the staff and students of Kathy Weaver School, along with community volunteers, will participate in the creation of various themed gardens around the school, an outdoor classroom, and the Pinky Parquet Makeover. We'd like to commend the City of Hamilton on your commitment to healthy green spaces and community gardens through your participation in such initiatives as Parks and Recreation Month, the Extreme Park Makeover concept, and Adopt a Park. I think we can all agree that the belief that great parks make great neighborhoods is a philosophy that we all share. Of course, we couldn't do this without our local partners and our national partners. As part of the Grow 1000 program, Scots Canada has partnered with Communities in Bloom, Plant a Row, Grow a Row, and the Nutrients for Life Foundation to bring this program to life. And I'll give Raymond in a minute a moment to speak. But before that, I just want to invite everyone to our event on June 20th. We have an official opening at 1:45, and there you'll get to watch as the school transforms its outdoor space, and you can stay for some community celebrations. So we look forward to seeing you all there, and I want to again thank you for your time and your attention. Raymond?
Merci, Karen. Ladies and gentlemen, council members, staff, it's a pleasure to be here. Very briefly, just want you to know that the award and the grant that was given to Hamilton for the Cathy Weaver School project and the Pinky Lewis Park makeover was selected through a selection process where we invited a certain number of municipalities throughout Canada, and following an assessment, the project was chosen. And what we saw in the application, we're seeing a demonstration even before the execution of the project. Leadership of council, dedication of staff, involvement of volunteers and community leaders. And I do want to mention very strongly the excellent collaboration that Karen and I and Susan and everybody involved in the project have received from Alex Moraz and Paul Denome from the Cathy Weaver School. It makes the project even more so pleasant. So we do want to congratulate you. Hamilton will be, as Karen has mentioned, listed with other municipalities from all over the United States and from Europe, the San Antonios, Miramars, the Minnesota, throughout North America. So you're part of a select group, so félicitations. And since our colleague from the Nutrients for Life Foundation could not be here, Catherine King, the Nutrients for Life Foundation is a charity organization dedicated to educating our youth in the benefits of nutrients and, as was mentioned on get their hands dirty and learn what it's all about. Well, we had the privilege of our grandparents or aunts or uncle teaching us the benefits of gardening. So on behalf of Nutrients for Life Foundation and Communities in Bloom, again, we say merci for the opportunity, félicitations, and we're looking forward to June 20th to get our hands dirty.
Thank you, Raymond. One thing about Hamilton, there's a lot of first here, and the reason there's a lot of first here is we usually do very well in setting a template for organizations to follow nationally. So we look forward to the June 20th date.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I believe we have presentations at this point. Who's coordinating that? Just a photo op? A photo op, okay. C'est bon? Merci, Raymond.
We could, if you wanted to take a picture with your staff, just so that we could.
Sure, come on in.
What was the best plants on June? We told you about it.
Kind of partnerships. I know Councillor McCaddy appreciates the fact that part of our vision is to grow community gardens. So it's incredible when you can establish these kind of partnerships and facilitate that very vision. At this point, Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Added as item 4.1, a delegation request from Sarah Mayo, Social Planning and Research Council of Hamilton, respecting a city-funded bus training project. And I believe Ms. Mayo is asking for consideration to present at today's meeting. Item 6.2, a delegation from Matt Froese, installation of traffic calming measures on Charlton Ave East. This request was already approved at May 22nd, but inadvertently left off today's agenda. Item 10.2, notice of motion regarding sidewalk construction along various areas near Brebeuf School. And that item 11.1, general discussion about item point 3 of Public Works Committee Report 13-014, respecting the Public Works Yards Review Strategy.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor McCaddy, second by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Is there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 22nd, 2014 Public Works Committee? Moved by Councillor Collins, second by Councillor Ferguson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Delegation request. Well, we have a delegation request from Sarah Mayo, Social Planning and Research Council of Hamilton, respecting the city-funded bus training project. Ms. Mayo has asked for the committee to consider her as a delegation for today's meeting. So, could I move by Councillor Jackson, second by Councillor McCaddy. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Consent items. 5.1, deposit of notice on title, affected properties on Searle Street related to access to the private garage from Bulls Lane. 5152? Okay, great. So moved by Collins, second by Jackson. Any further discussion on the consent items? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Public hearings and delegations. Councillor McCaddy.
Sure, just a quick comment, if I can, on 5.2, which is the delegated authority for records of site condition. I just wanted to thank staff for bringing this forward. Some of us have been working on being the Open for Business subcommittee, trying to reduce red tape and see development approvals occur faster than they otherwise would. And staff have, reading the report, it looks to me like staff have taken this step in order to move projects along faster than they have in the past. If I got that right through you to Gary, is that the intent here?
That's through Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to congratulate staff for taking that step. It's a proactive one, and it will help us move projects along faster than otherwise would be the case.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor McCaddy. We are now at public hearings and delegation 6.1. Delegation from Michelle Martin, Community Access Transportation, respecting city-funded bus training project. Ms. Martin, would you please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, councillors and committee members. I'm here to tell you today that the Community Access to Transportation Bus Training Project, which began in the fall of 2011, is now wrapping up. I'm going to provide you with a brief update on project outcomes, and our detailed report will be going to Public Works Department by the end of the month. The project was administered through Salvation Army Lawson Ministries, designed to train adults who access developmental services to use transit independently. It was run in partnership with developmental services agencies from across Hamilton, as well as both Hamilton school boards. 8 units of in-class curriculum were developed, including a series of instructional videos. We used both classroom instruction and on-the-bus training. Classroom instruction reviewed concepts of pedestrian and personal safety, bus riding basics, and basic trip planning. On-the-bus training took place one-to-one with agency-based field trainers whose hours were funded through the program, who were trained by this program and used the tools provided, who planned and rode a route several times with a trainee, gradually fading prompting, ending by shadowing the trainee as they rode the route independently. Trainee performance on each trip was scored according to a detailed task analysis. Trainers were looking for independent performance on all relevant tasks. Our excellent trainers kept to a high standard of safety, and I'm pleased to report no lost trainees and no injuries during the course of the project. And I'd like just right now to point out to you Sarah Harvey over here, who was one of our agency-based trainers from Lawson Ministries. She trained successfully many trainees for the program. Trainees were always encouraged to think of the safest way to do things, and as you can see here, trainee Jane got creative and made herself something to tie onto her purse to keep herself visible to cars when she crossed the street. Our instructional videos were produced by Airborne Video Productions, coordinated by my colleague Mark Van Noord, providing supported employment opportunities for many people. During the course of the project, I actually received several inquiries from people across North America who had seen the sample video we had posted on the Lawson Ministries webpage, who felt it was a good example of video modeling.
Go to your bus stop at least 5 minutes before your bus is due to arrive. When you see the bus coming, line up at the bus stop sign so that the bus driver knows you want to take the bus. Remember not to stand too close to the curb.
Since 2012, we have added video segments about safety at level railway crossings, how to use accessible buses with a wheelchair, and etiquette around accessible buses for riders who do not use mobility devices. Over the course of the project, HSR drivers got to know our trainers and our trainees and often went out of their way to support the goal of safe and independent travel. Many trainees chose to wear lanyards that we provide, and this was a discreet way for them to indicate to drivers that they were passengers who may require their particular assistance at times. We found it worked very well. Outcomes were very good. Of 201 trainees who began instruction, 151 successfully learned one or more routes, and trainers taught a total of 258 routes altogether. We had some trainees drop out of the program, and some trainees whom trainers decided did not have the necessary skills to ride the bus safely. And in fact, this speaks very well of the thoroughness and care of our agency trainers. Of the trainees who have completed successfully, I have surveyed 120 to date, asking for detailed responses to where they are traveling by bus and how often. I have some statistics up here. You have them in your handout, but in the interest of brevity, I'll just give you an overview of different trainee profiles. Trainees were very individual in their background and levels of experience. We had some who were completely inexperienced, who were ready to go, hit the ground running, and even learned complex routes involving the use of the Transcab system, or even transferring to Burlington Transit to travel to Aldershot in order to pick up the Waterdown bus. We had others who knew a route or so, but needed intensive route-specific instruction in order to learn another. We had trainees with some transit experience whose caregivers felt they needed some intensive safety reviews in the context of bus training. And we also had trainees with previous transit experience who had lost skills due to some stressful life event like a death in the family or a major illness, who came to us to relearn. So of the 120 trainees that I've surveyed to date, they are all reporting back a grand total of 2,865 trips per month on the HSR. Trainees included 51 transition-aged youth from both of the school boards, and superintendents from both school boards wrote us jointly to say how valuable they found the program for our students. And I'm so excited to see here today McNabb students Andrew, Brad, Asma, and Zach. Asma and Zach were trained by Sarah. Brad and Andrew, I actually took them out on the bus. We also have trainee Josh from Hill Park School. The other four trainees were from McNabb Secondary School, and they're here with their teacher, Heidi Marie Renas. Many parents have taken the time to write us a note of thanks. And you can see that these comments speak to the independence that their adult children have discovered, and about the difference it has made for them. Trainees committees have been meeting up at Freeway Coffee House several times a year to socialize and to learn. I'm happy to say guest speakers have included 2 HSR bus operators. Trainee comments about bus travel have ranged from the prosaic to the poetical, from "it gets me places" to "it's an adventure." But over 2 years of conducting follow-up interviews, this response touched me the most. What do you like about riding the bus? And I got this open-handed gesture. It has changed my life. Who thought bus drivers were such agents of life change? And just in conclusion, I'd like to thank the City of Hamilton on behalf of the Developmental Services Transportation Committee, our hardworking trainers, our hardworking trainees, for funding such a worthwhile and life-changing project. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the committee? Councillor McCaddy.
Very much, Mr. Chair, and fantastic project.
Thank you.
We had an update on it earlier. I remember last year, was it?
Yeah, it was in 2012, October, I think.
Right. And that was great to see. I think there was a little video on that one as well.
Right.
Really a great way to see what's actually happening. Now that the project's nearing its end, I just want to try and get a sense of what your thoughts are. Was it kind of done and you're done? You've trained all the people you need to train, or any sense of if this is a bit of a pilot project, whether we need to expand it, and I suspect we may hear from Sarah in a moment with some comments on that, but that would be of interest to me, Mr. Chair.
Well, Mr. Chairperson, I continued to receive inquiries, even as the project was wrapping up. Most of the agencies knew that the project was wrapping up, but I guess there were still inquiries coming from the community. And in the fall, I had about another 15 or so inquiries just in my inbox wanting bus training. I also know through our partnerships with both of the school boards that there are a lot of transition-aged youth who are looking to use transit training, those that are capable of learning to ride the bus safely and independently, to assist them to transitioning out of high school and into the working world or various activities they might participate in the community. It's my hope that bus training goes forward in some form. We have now 8 units of curriculum that were developed and a great series of instructional videos thanks to Airborne Video Productions, and it would be wonderful to see those used.
Well, right now, Mr. Chair, the project's nearing an end.
The project is actually
no specific plan to carry it on at this point in time.
At this point in time, this project is complete. That's been my main focus, to complete this project and do a good job and make sure that the report gets back to Public Works by the end of the month.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I have no other questions, so I need a motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Collins, second by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor? Any further? Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have Sarah Mayo, Social Planning Research Council of Hamilton, respecting the city-funded bus training project.
Thank you very much. My name is Sarah Mayo from the Social Planning and Research Council of Hamilton, and I'm here to tell you a bit more about the evaluation of this project. Lawson Ministries contracted with the Social Planning and Research Councils for a third-party evaluation of this program, and there was a bunch of objectives. The one I'm going to concentrate on giving you highlights today is on the issue of sustainability, i.e. the cost savings. But first, let me give you a bit more context about travel training. So for Hamilton residents who are eligible for DARTs, that is to say residents who can't use HSR independently, they have a few choices. The main choice is to apply to Accessible Transportation Services of the City of Hamilton for an eligibility assessment and use DARTs, which they may use with or without conditions depending on their level of disability, and that costs the city about $25 a trip. When the CAT pilot program was in operation, they could instead choose to participate in travel training and gain skills to use HSR safely and independently. The travel training program was focused on recruiting residents from developmental services agencies, as this is a large group that's likely eligible for DARTs and could be diverted from DARTs onto HSR with the right training. And the travel training is not just about saving money, it also has impacts on quality of life, which I'll talk about in a minute. A third option, not on this slide, is for eligible residents who may not register for DARTS or travel training at all, which can have a negative impact on quality of life. Residents who avoid travel and or rely entirely on family for trips may see increased social isolation and the negative health effects that come from that, and increased caregiver burden and costs. Traveling on DARTS is an improvement in quality of life for these residents and provides door-to-door service, which HSR does not, so there are more destinations possible through DARTS. But the overcapacity of DARTS, the oversubscription of DARTS and the advanced booking needed for all trips means that clients are discouraged from traveling as much as they would like to, and that can affect their quality of life. For DARTS eligible residents who can travel train to use HSR, this can be a big improvement in their quality of life. The qualitative indicators from our evaluation confirmed that participants had increased confidence and independence and increased their community participation. Travel trainees had a number of discretionary trips on HSR, and discretionary trips are exactly the type of trip which are most likely to improve quality of life. Okay, so let's talk about the numbers now. The total cost per successful trainee was about $2,650. This is intensive training, about 30 hours of one-on-one field training for trainees. But this cost includes lots of the startup costs, including the development of the curriculum. So if the program continues, it would be expected that this cost would be reduced. And we compared to other cities where data was available, and this cost was exactly in line with American costs for this kind of training. So for this investment in trainees, how much did the city save? Because this is a population that is likely eligible for DARTS and would otherwise be using DARTS. So our overall result was that this $2,650 per person invested in travel training, the city saves about $1,500 a year in DARTS costs. We estimate conservatively for about 10 years. As Michelle mentioned, there's quite a few, most are middle-aged or younger, and there's a large group that are even younger, and so 10 years would be a conservative estimate of how long the savings would continue. This is a little bit of how we got to that calculation. So overall, the trainees on HSR take about 24 trips per month. We can't assume that all those trips would be on DARTS. So instead, we look at how many trips that clients with developmental disabilities who are not travel trainees, who are currently on DARTS, how many times do they use it a month? And they use it about 5.5 trips a month. So that adds up to about almost 10,000 trips diverted from DARTS per year, if we multiply that out by our number of trainees. And that's about 2.3% of trips diverted from DARTS, of all DARTS trips that we've estimated. When we multiply that by the cost of a DARTS trip, this equals about $235,000 a year in gross savings. We can then over 10 years, this is about $2 million in net savings after accounting for program costs. This is an average net return on investment of about 49% per year for 10 years. And it's on the low end of American savings estimates, but some of the American models are based on less conservative assumptions. So travel training is a great example of a win-win program. Travel training increases participants' quality of life while saving the city money. Our evaluation was able to confirm these benefits and quantify the savings. We hope these findings are useful for the city in its deliberations about the future of travel training program in Hamilton. Thank you.
Sarah, good evaluation on that. I wonder, first off, whether we can get copies of your slides.
Yes.
Get that distributed so we have that information. It seems like an extraordinary return on investment for this program. So, Mr. Chair, I'll have a question for staff afterwards in terms of next steps. But, sir, just a general question, a little bit off topic, but transit training in general for the general public. I'm just wondering if you've given some thought to that as well. I know you're keen on transit generally, not just for this before us today.
There have been other travel training programs. I believe Green Venture has done some, and the Hamilton Council on Aging, which are more general and aimed at a general population that, especially young people or older people who may be transitioning in life and kind of either not being able to drive a car anymore or need to avoid driving a car for a few years as a young person. And those have important benefits. That those populations are generally not eligible for DART, so there's less of a cost savings, but there is cost savings in terms of more people on transit. Certainly has other benefits, has financial benefits for the city in terms of fewer cars on our roads. So those, and Metrolinx, I believe, has funded some of those programs.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. That's a larger topic, I guess, but certainly driving ridership, and a lot of people just, it's a little barrier just if you haven't taken the bus. It's not, it's not that difficult once you get the hang of things, but just to make that original leap.
Yeah.
Getting into the mode of taking the bus.
I remember in my 20s working, and someone my age had never taken the bus, and she was just afraid of it, and so it is a type of skill that we need to promote more.
And Mr. Chair, I'll have a question for staff afterwards. Sure. Once Sarah's.
By Powers, all in favor? Powers?
Question of HSR staff, please, relative to this. Chair, to the staff, in view of the presentations, what's the suggestion of staff? Whether should we program for another year, or have you wrapped your head around where we move ahead with this, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. What we're waiting for is the final report to come in, and one of the items that's going to be identified is the demand that we haven't met so far. Once we have those numbers to see, because the school boards came on late to the project itself, and the early indication is that there's still a great demand that hasn't been met through this initial pilot. Once we have those numbers and that report comes to us, then we'll develop a plan to see if maybe this is a program that we do maybe on a bi-yearly kind of thing or full-time.
Obviously, in view of that, I'm going to say desirable information and results, does it make sense to extend the program at least for 6 months or another year in order that we capture the complete data in order to allow you to do the appropriate analysis, whether yourself or Mr. Davis might want to.
So through the chair, we want to report back by the end of the month. So I think, we've seen like the data today. It's our first time too, as it is committees. And we'll come back, within a month. So it's not a long delay if we should start it back up. Okay, but we're, definitely we know the urgency of it, which is very important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councillor Powers. Now moving on, we have another, Councillor McCaddy, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think Councillor Powers covered it for the most part, but I think there is some urgency here. When a program's working so well, you don't want to have a much of a delay, ideally, in getting it, carrying it on. And it sounds to me, Mr. Chair, like the other key part is to connect formally with the school boards. Have we done that yet? Have we connected with some of the people that Sarah spoke about, the school boards, to carry on in addition to the great work that Lawson Ministries is doing, Mr. Chair?
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we have. Lawson Ministries is the point person for the community itself. And so the school boards are on board already, per se. They've already been involved, but they came into the process, the 2-year pilot, late. So we weren't able to meet all their demand. Report should be in any time this month, which will highlight the unfulfilled demand that's still in the community.
Good to hear. So, Jerry, the direction then is just to come back perhaps in July, at our July GIC or whatever it is, and just want to make sure we don't have too much of a gap in between, hopefully trying to renew the project.
Through the chair, yes, we'll definitely. We'll get as soon as we get it. We know it's a priority, so it will be a GIC in July because of the summer, but we'll get to the
pretty exciting return on investment. So nice to have that kind of payback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKay. I have no other speakers, so have we moved to receive that second delegation? Okay, so we're moving to delegation 6.3, Matthew Froise, C, is that how you pronounce it? Froise. Respecting installation of traffic calming measures on Charlton Avenue East, street I'm very, very familiar with. Once you congested.
So you can use this.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time and attention today. I'm here to speak to you about a request for additional traffic calming measures.
Speak into the mic.
Certainly.
That's better.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time and attention today. I'm here to request additional traffic calming measures be considered for installation on Charlton Avenue East, especially for eastbound traffic. My name is Matthew Froise. I'm a resident in the neighborhood adjacent to the intersection that I'm going to be speaking about. I will note I'm a professional engineer. I'm not a traffic engineer. These are personal opinions rather than professional. The problem, as I'm sure you guys have all heard, as I'm sure the committee's aware, is that the rail trail crossing at Wentworth Street is dangerous. I think that's presented it here as a statement of fact, and I think that's fairly safe to say. I know my 2.5 years living nearby and using the rail trail as a pedestrian, as a cyclist, and as a frequent driver through the intersection. It certainly is perceived as dangerous by many members of the community, and I know we had that danger highlighted by a fatal accident there in the fall. For those who are not immediately familiar, this is just a photo of the location. As you can see, there's a lot going on. The rail trail crosses Wentworth right after Charlton Avenue East takes a tight corner into Wentworth itself, and there's also a railway crossing, a controlled railway crossing adjacent. This is kind of a map view. I hope that's reasonably clear for people to see. So the particular direction of traffic that I'd like to draw the committee's attention to, Mr. Chair, is eastbound traffic coming down Charlton Avenue East before the corner and approaching the rail trail crossing at Wentworth. Since the fatal accident in the fall, the city has provided some improvements to the crossing to highlight the crossing itself, and I think those have been very good at improving the visibility of the crossing. So we've got a pedestrian crossing, and there's an LED flasher at the top of the sign that flashes and draws attention, and I think that's been very effective, certainly for traffic approaching via Wentworth, where visibility is quite good and quite long. I think that's probably quite a bit less effective for eastbound traffic coming from Charlton. One of the reasons I think we can be pretty confident in that is that about 2 weeks after the signs went up, one of them was hit by a car. So it's installed directly adjacent to where a pedestrian, such as myself, would be standing and waiting to cross the rail trail, and was struck very, very soon after being put up. I should commend the city. The city staff did replace the sign, I think, within 24 or 36 hours after being struck. So that's excellent responsiveness to that issue. But I think it still speaks to an ongoing concern about the level of safety at the crossing itself. So this is some kind of unofficial measuring that I did myself the other day. If you're approaching the crossing from Charlton Avenue East, the first time you get to see the sign, or in fact the crossing itself, is about 60 meters away from the crossing, measured at the outside of the road. At the average speed of traffic, that gives you about 4 seconds to sort out that there is a crossing and that there's something you need to do about it. Because of the tight curve, you can't actually see the full width of the crossing until you're about 40 meters away. That also means that anybody crossing from west to east, which is the direction of travel for the young woman who was killed, you have about 3 seconds to assess if a vehicle is coming before they actually make it to the crossing. It's not a lot of time. I can probably put on the hustle to get across. I'm not sure that everybody crossing with their kids and dogs and everything else can. In addition, eastbound vehicles face some road geometry problems that reduce the available traction to respond to somebody being stuck in the road, somebody, not making it across the intersection as fast as they might like to. Eastbound vehicles are traveling downhill while turning a corner, and they're coming through a corner that's banked away from the turn, which are all the factors that reduce their available traction. So it means they're going to have less ability to brake, and less ability to make evasive maneuvers should they have to. I think this is, if anybody spent any time crossing the intersection, you'll also notice there's a very characteristic tire squeal associated with eastbound traffic, because a lot of people who do come through a little too quick are definitely pushing the limits of their vehicles. All of these risks are affected by and increased by increasing speed. So my request, Mr. Chair, is for the committee to consider implementing permanent and physical traffic calming measures for eastbound traffic on Charlton Avenue East. There's a straight section of road that's relatively flat coming into the corner. That would be certainly a much safer place for drivers to slow down, to get their speed to a reasonable level to approach both the corner and the crossing safely. So something like speed humps or rumble strips or something in that kind of family of approach could definitely be implemented there, and ensure that those drivers who are approaching at an unsafe speed have a physical warning and do get their speed down before the corner itself, before it's too late. So in summary, eastbound traffic is subject to limited visibility in a difficult corner. We want to give drivers an opportunity to approach the corner safely, approach the crossing safely at a time when they can do so safely themselves. We want to get the vehicle speeds down because that dictates the level of risk, both from limited visibility and the time of interaction, as well as vehicle traction. And traffic calming ahead of the corner would definitely lower vehicle speeds and help to reduce the risk. And that's all, Mr. Chair. If there are any questions.
Thank you. On the list, I have Councillor Marula and then Councillor Jackson. Councillor Marula.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and many thanks for the, I'll say it's very timely. Just Saturday, to be exact, I took the rail to time myself from home. And when I got to that point, I'll be quite frank, rush hour, it was about 7:30 a.m. Even at that time, with the I empathize with you. I think we do need to act sooner rather than later. The question becomes, how do we do that? And I'm thinking pedestrian light. Councillor Collins had mentioned perhaps a bridge of some kind, a pedestrian bridge that would cross over. I do agree that it's overdue. I'm not offering up anybody's area rating money, and I think will be a means of, I think, an understanding that we need to act on it. The question only becomes, how do we fund it? So, I'd like to move that assess this as expeditiously as possible.
Thank you. And I know that there's a significant application coming in on Charlton where the Van Cleef's property, and there'll be demands in regards to that application relative to the traffic loads and so forth. So there might be a marriage with that development to build in some way of traffic calming to facilitate this concern at the same time. So we might be able to leverage one thing from another. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, on that point, just for a matter of clarity, it actually only took me 14. Oh, so there's no riding their bike even in the lower part.
Thank you. I notice your car's out there, Councillor Marilla. Councillor McCaddy. Or sorry, Jackson, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Matthew, thank you for the presentation. Now, obviously, can you just go back, Matthew, just a couple of slides to your heading that's right there. So I know physically what you're talking about is on the borders of wards 2 and 3, but I'm going to speak for a lot of mountain motorists who come down the Sherman access on that leg and will go eastbound.
Sure.
I like the idea of Councillor Marilla, and I'll second it, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, referring it to Martin White and traffic to see exactly the range of options they might want to come up with. Matthew, I just worry your last recommendation here, your bullet point, traffic calming, possibly a speed hump. I just worry putting a speed hump on that stretch or even just around the bend before the escarpment rail trail passing there might just cause some downside of traveling motorists in terms of backing up, sudden stopping, whatever. So maybe some increased signage, like Councillor Marilla suggested, maybe some flashing pedestrian, crossing lights, something to that effect. But Mr. Chairman, through you to Matthew. Matthew, would you be at least, as a citizen, open-minded to see what traffic department might be able to come back with in terms of options? Mr. Chairman, through you to Matthew, please.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, I'd be interested to hear what the traffic folks would have to say about it. I guess my concern about signage is there is some signage approaching the intersection already, and just given how close all the kind of growth is to the south side of the road there, the signage that's there really isn't visible through, well, now or through the fall. So additional signage there hidden behind leaves and trees is not any more effective than the signage that's already there. So there is already a sign that recommends a turning speed of 20 kilometers an hour for that corner, which traffic definitely exceeds on a regular basis. And I know as a driver, I'm not going 20 through that corner either. And I understand the concern about potentially backing up traffic, but there's also a fair bit of risk to the traffic that's there right now. I know that there's a guardrail around the outside of that corner that gets smashed into and repaired about once a year. So I think there's a balance there between convenience and safety that needs to be found. And certainly there may be other alternatives that provide that. But something like a speed hump has the advantage of being very affordable and being able to be implemented very, very quickly.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Do you find, Matthew, at the bottom there, just past the rail trail, where it comes out, there's the train tracks. You find the train tracks, and everybody, most Hamiltonians, if not all, myself, I use that regularly, know the train tracks are there. I have always, when I make the bend to go downbound, I'm automatically slowing down because I know the tracks, if nothing else, will make sure that I don't want to just run over the tracks. You find that isn't that much of a deterrent, Mr. Chairman, through you to Matthew?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I can't speak to the experience of other drivers. I think a lot of people are definitely coming through that corner more quickly than would allow them to stop at the tracks themselves, just because of the steepness of the grade. I think a lot of people rely on traffic backing up along the curve to give them a warning that the train is there. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Matthew. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I still feel that like we did on Mud Street before Pritchard, where Martin White and Superintendent Ferguson put up a big sign that said, signal your turn, which helped immensely at that T intersection. I still think maybe some more visible signage that isn't kind of caught in the foliage of what's there right now, because I agree, most motorists wouldn't even remember seeing the 20 warning sign for the kilometers per hour around the bend. So, Mr. Chairman, I think we should keep a wide range of options open, but I'm glad Matthew's brought this to our attention for the safety, especially of cyclists and motorists. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor McCaddy.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and I just wanted to thank Matthew for the way he's made this presentation. It's very easy to understand, and the distances and the translating that into how many seconds the driver would have to react as they make the curve, and they see the person crossing with a bicycle or whatever it might be. That's a tremendous way to present the argument or the case. I just think a little bit about the Queen Street Hill as well, and I think the rumble strips that we've used on the Queen Street Hill have been very effective to let people know there's a curve coming up, something they should pay attention to. So I think there are a wide variety of traffic calming techniques that we've already used. Looking over at John, and I know we've used it in parts of Ward 1 that may apply in this case. I think signage is important, but my experience has been it's the physical change, because you're not, the roadway is straight and people are going fast because they're going down the in a downbound format hill area. So you've got to alter the road in some way in order to alter the speed of the driver. So it sounds like there's lots of different options we can try, Mr. Chair. So thanks, Matthew.
I'm going to ask Councillor Miller to take the chair, and certainly just another alternative. I've seen this in communities, and it's more for the pedestrian than it is for the driver, but they use in those kind of blind spots for the cyclists, they use like those mirrors that they could look into to see if there's a car coming before the bend, so they're aware of the timing that they have to cross as well. So there are an array of simple solutions that might facilitate a greater safety in that intersection. I look forward to staff doing their due diligence to determine the options. So thank you very much. So at this point, I take the chair back. I need no further questions. I need a motion to receive the delegation first, and then I'll go to Councillor Murillo for the motion. Moved by Councillor Powers, second by Councillor McCaddy. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Councillor Murillo on the motion.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jackson, that the area in question for traffic calming measures be referred to staff for a full assessment and report back to committee with alternatives.
Discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to presentations. 7.1, we now have a presentation respecting Facilities Quality Management Program. I call on staff to come forward to make their presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of Public Works Committee. Thank you for having us here today to present our quality management program. My name is Rome D'Angelo. I'm the Director of Facility Management and Capital Planning. With me today, I have Delphina Duarte, who is the Superintendent of Business Services and Technology, and Ryan McHugh, Initiatives Coordinator. Both of them will be assisting me in this presentation. I'd like to note as well as that Ryan's here on his honeymoon. He was married he was married on Saturday, and he was anxious to be here as part of this presentation.
Not starting off on a good foot there, my friend. I
don't know. Welcome, though. Congratulations. Thank you. He's planning to go to Italy in September, so. It's been over 18 months since facility management team has come together as a consolidated division, bringing together recreation and corporate facilities under one direction on one unit. The quality management program is about measuring the facility management business, validating what we do, and that there is value to the service being delivered from our group. Putting a performance measurement system in place can be an important way of keeping track of the progress of our business. It gives us vital information about what's happening now, and it also provides the starting point for a system of target setting that will help us implement corporate strategies. So our agenda for this presentation today is we're going to talk about facility management, who we are, what we do, some of our guiding principles. The second point, our quality management program on paper, what it is, what are the benefits, and how is it different. Our quality management program in practice, that will be presented from Ryan, and it's what does it look like in practice? How can it be used to reach our strategies, our goals? And finally, how does the quality management program embody our corporate culture? So facility management, bless you. Facility management is divided into 3 business units. Facility operations and maintenance, the manager is Chuck Elkerton in that area. Our capital and strategic planning and compliance, Marnie Clucky is our manager in that area. And stadium and golf operations, as well as our central utility plant, Rob Gatto is our manager in that area. So the mission of facility management is to be a center of excellence, effectively planning, operating, and maintaining facilities and capital assets, to coordinate the physical workplace with the people and goals of the organization, utilizing the most efficient and cost-effective facility management practices while providing high quality and value to the City of Hamilton stakeholders. Our vision is to be an innovative team of professional, recognized excellence in facility management. So in the past 18 months, our team felt it would be vital to the success of our business if we established key goals in our facility management program. We established 4 key goals. The first one's accountability, second one's customer focus, our third one is bench strength, which is the investment in our people, and the fourth one is horizontal integration, which is really talking about breaking down silos and working with other divisions collaboratively, collectively for a common goal. Our focus today is the goal of accountability. Quality management is about quantifying our business using meaningful indicators of success for our clients, peers, and City Council. So facility management, we have an inventory of approximately 510 facilities. These facilities are grouped into 3 areas: recreation, corporate, and entertainment. We manage well over 7.5 million square feet of space. The estimated value of our assets is $1.5 billion. In 2014, we were approved $19.5 million in capital funds, and our operating expenses are approximately $21 million. So our focus here is today talking about our corporate culture. It's steadfast integrity. The pressure we face today is aging facility infrastructure, where we currently have $87 million in deferred capital and maintenance, $56 million in the recreation area, and $31 million in the corporate facilities. A quality management program allows us to evaluate how we are performing against the industry, where we can effectively spend our operating dollars, and where we need to deploy our employees. Knowing how the different areas of our business are performing is valuable information, but a good measurement system will always let us examine the trigger for any changes in performance. This puts us in a better position to manage our performance proactively. So the next part of our presentation is getting into the quality management program, and I'll pass the floor on to Delphina Doherty.
Thanks, Rome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity of allowing both Ryan and myself to attend here today and talk to you about our innovative quality management program. It will have a significant impact on how we manage our buildings, not only with respect to accountability, as Rome mentioned earlier, but it will also form the foundation for driving business performance to the highest industry standards. I will start by giving you a bit of history on how quality management has evolved in our industry, and Ryan will follow by telling you how we've adapted the industry program to our city environment. Thanks. Quality management in the context of the facilities management world has been an evolving methodology fundamentally based on measuring performance metrics, setting targets, and monitoring progress. Essentially, it's a reporting tool. Its evolution has been driven by large sector facility management companies that have to compete for massive outsourcing contracts where the market is extremely competitive and margins are slim. Traditionally, facility management has operated as a reactive model. For example, Requests for services come into our department, and staff are dispatched to perform the repairs as quickly as possible. Repairs are handled on a first-come, first-served basis, with the exception of emergencies. Prioritization, staff workloads, and service standards were abstract concepts for improvement and generally left at the employee level. The main reason for operating in this way has been the lack of good real-time data. But back in the 80s, the computerized maintenance management systems were invented. And when that happened, reporting on work performance became possible. With this technology, companies could now show how many work orders were created, how many were completed, and by whom they were completed. But this is still far from a quality management program. It was simply a better way of reporting. In large organizations with hundreds of buildings and sometimes thousands, it quickly became obvious that there were differences from one building to the next with respect to operational metrics. Some buildings operated efficiently with few service calls, while others had constant equipment failures and generally unhappy customers. In a competitive world, in a competitive market, nothing drives strategic development more than an unhappy customer. The first step was to identify key strategic goals. The business goals. Develop key performance indicators to measure and support these goals, compare against the industry for similar types of buildings. Then a scorecard was developed to show results. This then followed with progressive reviews and adjusting the goals accordingly. This new model was much improved, but the main limitation was still the data. The data was available, but it resided in different places, was collected inconsistently, and still had to be compiled. In our case, with 510 buildings, you can imagine there was a big exercise, and has been a big exercise, to piece together the information in a meaningful way, and then to produce reports. Consequently, this has been done generally about once a year. Thanks. Thankfully, technology has continued to advance, and we can now capture data far more efficiently and more dynamically, which means that our ability to analyze it quickly has grown in leaps and bounds. These changes really allow us to get a greater granularity, a greater understanding of what drives our business and how it's performing in all of the different areas, including workforce performance, resourcing, assets, customer satisfaction, and financials. And it paves the way for being far more focused and driving behaviors right down at the employee level. And that's the key. The emphasis now is on the do and act, not just at the end of the year, and not even just quarterly, but almost in real-time basis. The second piece of the equation is the concept of standardization. When we apply standards that we set as a corporation, we can measure against the level of service we want to deliver, and we can ensure that all of our buildings are receiving the same consistent services. Again, this is an evolution in service delivery. When we brought corporate buildings, golf stadium, and recreation buildings together, we realized that with our limited resources, we needed to find the solution to manage facilities as a whole and deliver consistent standard services to the entire portfolio. We landed on the quality management program because it provides better business intelligence, is the basis for business planning and decision-making, it drives employee behaviors, it highlights if and when there is a need for change, and it justifies our financial investment in the facilities. It's a foundation for accountability right down to the employee level and the contractor level, but it requires change. And that's why the collective ownership piece is absolutely key to successful implementation. It's a big program that we're deploying, and it impacts multiple groups at different levels, and our employees are being asked to perform their jobs differently. This means adapting to change. As a result, we have chosen to implement a stepped approach. Each step will include more progressive targets. Each stepped approach will allow the team to acclimatize to the new expectations and become comfortable with the process and ultimately own the program. Ryan will now give you some insight into the mechanics of how the program actually works.
Thank you, Del, and I'd like to thank you for having us here today. So I'm going to give you a little bit about the workings, the nuts and bolts, what this looks like in practice. So when we started with the quality management program, we first identified our strategic goals, which Rome and Del spoke to, and then we said we need to break it down incrementally, achievable KPIs that we can track and build towards to achieve those goals. So we've worked with our various stakeholders, the people in our group, to develop these KPIs, and when you roll them up collectively, they form a scorecard. And we've said to keep things simple, we have a data integrity scorecard, an operational performance scorecard, customer service, technology, and financial performance. And I'll show you a little bit more of that in a moment. So the quality management program doesn't just include creating these measures. The most important thing is the quarterly business reviews, where we review them and talk about what's moving the numbers. We try to keep that as strategic as possible. The scorecard is to get the quantitative data to the surface, so you have the right people in the room talking about the right figures and how it ties into our strategy. So at its core, the quality management program recognizes that quality data leads to quality analysis, which leads to those sound business decisions. And to this bottom-up approach, it allows our staff to see how their input, their closing work orders, their booking their hours against them, see how that rolls up to the management level decisions, so it allows them to take that collective ownership. So here's first an example when I say we try to make things as simple as possible. We define some measures. We go into the meeting understanding what they are. So first, this would be an example of one measure. So we see how are we doing, where did we come from, where are we going, and what is considered quality. And we have a number of trade organizations we work close with. We use OMBI data for the finance, IFMA, it's International Facility Management Association. So we have a number of groups that we measure ourselves to. It's important not just self-improvement, but you got to compare yourself to the industry. So when you roll that up, this is just for visual purposes, you'll see each of those measures roll up to make a scorecard. And this is an example of one of the 5 scorecards that we do. So you would have a collection of the KPIs, which would be well defined before, the lines of business, so we're looking at corporate buildings, rec, golf, CUP, for instance. And then we just have an action plan. So we have, right into strategic discussion, where are we today, where did we come from, what's moving the numbers, what's our plan for tomorrow. So here we have the initiatives to be completed, the date to be completed by, and who to be completed by, and the targeted completion date. So this is very high-level discussion. It's not a quantitative exercise. That's done before the meeting. This just gets strategy to the surface and lets us talk about our goals. So for instance, we've gotten to the point now where we're almost ready to roll out. The data has gotten quality enough that we can roll out to the client groups, the end user, the people in city buildings, almost a report card. So if it was, for instance, corporate services, we can say, here's the work we've done on your behalf. So I'll take you through where we are headed. So we can have an inventory of the amount of work we've done, broken down by the urgency of the request. So we're going to have customer service levels. So for high urgency requests, we want to respond in 1 day. Medium, such as small repairs, we target a week. And low, such as hanging a picture, we target 2 weeks. So it's not just the amount of work. We want to say, we also want to say percent of them that are actioned on time. So we've set those targets. We're going to want to let our client groups know we've done X amount of work. We've done it to this standard. But completing it and doing it quickly is just part of the story. We also we send out customer satisfaction surveys to gauge whether our client groups were satisfied. So really cutting edge in the industry. It's taking our work, putting it out there, measuring our performance. I know we've spoke amongst ourselves. You can't manage what you can't measure. Well, we've taken that step to move ahead of this trend. So from that, this is what we work towards. I'll kind of take you on the back end. Well, how do we develop KPIs to get there? So first, we're looking at percentage of the work requests closed by urgency. So we started out just baby steps. Let's close our work orders. And we would create reports to do that. We'd send that out to our staff. So we got to the point where we're closing a very, very high percentage of our work orders. And then we looked at, the days to complete. So we looked, not just are we closing them, are we meeting in line with what we want our customer service targets to be? And then we're looking at percentage of requesters satisfied with the work. So we've sent out customer service surveys, and the responses have been very positive to date. and a percent satisfied by urgency type, because it's important for us to break it down at the granular detail. We drill down quite further, but you want to see where you're having issues so we can address them, see what roadblocks there are to meet our goals. So in developing KPIs, we go and we say, well, how much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off? We use that as kind of our core principles. And if you use that and have our strategic goals well defined, we find incrementally, we will get there. So I touched on what I've touched on in my portion. We spoke on the engaged, empowered employees, because now each of our tradespeople, they see when they close their work orders, when they book their time. We're here reporting it. We're making strategic decisions on that data. Whether it's staffing, justifying the hard work that we do. So now they've really bought into it, and there's if there's an issue, perhaps it's a training issue or a technology issue, they're anxious to raise it up, and it's generated some good discussion. And sensational service. If we're able to publish our amount of work that we've done, provide that report card to our client groups, I believe that's very unique within the industry, and it's really putting ourselves out there, allowing ourselves to get that feedback so we can improve. I'm just going to touch on some of the successes to date. We are in the early stages, but we already have quite a bit of success to improvement. And as Rome likes to say, it's tip of the iceberg. We have lots of great things in the pipeline. So we have staff closing 90% of the work orders that are issued to them, and that's up from 60% in 2012. 2/3 of their time is captured in the system, and that's up from 20% in 2013. Strategically, we want to move to activity-based costing so that it's reflecting, the work actually being done. We can really identify areas of potential cost savings, and this is how we get there. And also, because we're working significantly on our data collection, we've also been able to put in standards across whether it's recreation and golf, stadium, corporate, so that when we're doing things, as Rome talked about, the horizontal integration, there's not the silos. We're using best practices across our group. And so this kind of touched on the last portion here, courageous change. For us to really move from as Del said, the very reactive to this proactive model. Here's quantifying the work we do, putting it out there, and our goals to see how we can get better. It's cutting edge, and we think embodies our corporate culture. So thank you for that. I'm going to pass it back to Rome to complete the presentation.
Thanks, Ryan. So how does the quality management program embody the corporate culture? If we identify the key areas that drive our business performance and find a way to measure them, then the natural step is to start setting performance targets to give everyone a clear sense of what they should be aiming for. Strategic vision can be difficult to communicate. By breaking our top objectives down into smaller concrete targets, we will make it easier to manage the process and deliver them. This way, those targets form the crucial link between strategy and day-to-day operations. So that's the end of our presentation, and if there's any questions, the three of us are here to answer.
Thank you, Rome, and we do indeed. We have Councillor McCaddy on the list.
Very much, Mr. Chair. Well, that's just extraordinary work. I don't know where to begin. It just gives us such a great sense of comfort as council that this level of detail, this level of tracking, the commitment to excellence that you have in the department and the program is coming forward is just tremendous. I guess for me, and it may not be a fair question, but for me it begs the question: what else are we doing corporately right across the city of Hamilton? I guess within Public Works, but very much so right across all the different departments throughout the city. Maybe just a quick question through to Jerry. Any knowledge, Jerry, SMT, whether this is having an impact on SMT and elsewhere?
Through the chair, the model, because of Public Works, we're the capital intensive department and providing the services. So we have the same model in Gary Moore's shop with respect to the linear assets, and Dan Chauvin, at the water and wastewater treatment plant. And we work with all the other departments when they have projects. I think, one of the key things, Public Health Services, the recent project, the relocation, that facilities working with them, they've bought Public Health, anything they do, they use a similar format. So it is a, the nice thing about the process is the silos, although we are independent departments, the silo mentality is really being from the corporation, which is critical. And we don't have proprietary technology, so this is great. Everyone uses it. So, you know, we at SMT, Rome and John and the folks come in and do presentations. So it's information for everybody in the organization, just as we piggyback off some of the technology that other departments are using.
Well, it's a great program. I know it's facilities-based, but I think the way of thinking is really the exciting part for me. The details may be lost on me in terms of facilities, not my business, but a commitment to excellence, the customer focus. I mean, to me, this screams out for an application in the planning department, where it's a long, convoluted series of approvals that are required for development applications when the person comes in the door. And there's lots of challenges, which I won't go into now in Public Works Committee. But I'd love to see this kind of idea shared with SMT, shared with the Planning Department, not for facilities, because that's not what they're into, but the way of thinking. And maybe just a last question, Mr. Chair, to Rome. Any sense of, I'll say, cost savings that may be found by taking the approach you're taking here, and or seeing projects sped up? Because we always complain. I've been one of those who's complained from time to time on the length of time that projects take. Where the mail is. And seems to me there's opportunities to either cost savings or speeding up projects. Mr. Chair, to Rome.
Through the chair to the councillor, we've seen great improvements in various areas. One area in particular is our procurement side of our business. There's a number of just the data that's coming in, the quality of the data, and the ability to analyze that data and take a different approach on how we tender some of the services out there. We have seen some savings. We were going to quantify them today, but we felt, you know, we were going to stay away from those types of savings. We can come back at a later date and provide some of those savings, but to date we have seen some savings in the procurement side.
Well, it's great to hear, and I look forward to this kind of approach being rolled out right across the corporation. Thanks.
Councillor McCaddy. At this point, I have Councillor Jackson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Director D'Angelo, we're very fortunate to have you, Rome, since you've been full-time director of the facilities management area of our corporation, and Delphina Ryan, excellent presentation as well. So I see patterns here, General Manager Davis, with the asset renewal that Director Moore and his staff engaged in several years ago with roads and sidewalks in terms of the asset management renewal program. The one little roadblock, pardon the pun, we ran into with that was drying up of funds. So through you to Rome, all your quality management assessment and your program here, when the need is there and you need to do improvements, funding going to be an issue, or that's something that every capital budget time you'll be submitting, we have to fight for, we have to be made aware of? Because I don't want to be in a position where a certain amount of our facilities, you've done all this great assessment, all the scorecards, but nothing's going to be done or implemented or improved upon or upgraded because, well, councillor, funding has run out. So, Mr. Chairman, through you to Rome Posby for a comment, please.
Through the chair, like I stated in one of my slides, at the moment there's an $87 million deferred maintenance and capital. So do we have a pressure? We absolutely have a pressure on our hands, both on operating and capital. We do have a strategic focus on programs or projects being implemented. On the recreation side, we do have documents that drive that priority through the outdoor study, the indoor study, as well as our client department. We work very closely with our fire department, with our libraries and public work yards groups to develop those strategies and set those priorities. You know, in terms of the way we've delivered in the past and the way we're going to continue to deliver, I mean, it's all about customer service and delivering that program to the constituents, to the clients out there. But do we have a pressure? We absolutely have a pressure, but that's not going to hold us back in terms of what we need to do and what the right thing is.
Well, that's encouraging to hear, and at least nobody's hiding behind the information in terms of not forthcoming and not wanting to deal with it. So, Rome, I'm encouraged with that. And as this term of council did with the roads infrastructure and infrastructure deficit, about 90 mil, and trying to help to address that, Rome, I would suggest in future councils, whoever's here, that kind of budgetary pressure, I think, needs to be impressed upon the new council as much as possible moving forward. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Rome.
Councillor Jackson, at this point, I have no other speakers, so we need a motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Collins, second by Councillor Ferguson. All those in favour? Anyone opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Rome. Really appreciate the presentation. There was a movement to waive the presentation, moved by Councillor Marula, second by Councillor Collins. Any discussion? All those in favour? All in favour? Just to waive the presentation. All those in favor of waiving the presentation? Carried. Thank you. Any opposed? At this point, then, we'll move straight to questions. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my only question is through you to...
Hang on, Councillor Ferguson, can you hold for a moment? Jerry, you want to make some preliminary remarks?
If I appreciate that very. So, I just want to, the presentation's been put together, and what I wanted to do is acknowledge Brian Scheinel. That was going to be the lead-off part of my presentation. So he put together all 4 directors worked on this. Brian was the lead on it, did a fabulous job. So I'd like to acknowledge him, as this is his last Public Works Committee, and I'm sure members of the committee will have things to say. So, it's been a great effort, and again, following up on what we just seen with Rome, this has been a collective ownership in the department. So I just wanted to be able to acknowledge Brian and all the others. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson, thank you very much for that, and we wish you all the best, Brian, in your future endeavors, and certainly appreciate the work you've done on this chart. On that, well, you don't want to wait till we get to you, or you want to do it now? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, and I'm sure we'll all be providing our comments about Brian at the end of the meeting, because free not go, but I understand. And we all understand that. My only questions are, Jerry, Public Works touches all of us, all 16 members of council, and it's difficult to keep track because you've been moving a lot of people again, and you I don't see that attached here today, unless I've missed it, but you should be distributing an org chart to all members of council, because it gets confusing. Who does roundabouts? Who does cutting the side of the roads? Who does the parks? Who does, it's very, very confusing. Who we contact when we have contacts with our office. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Through the chair, we have that document ready to go. We have the who does what document, and what we do is, and it's in two formats. So there's a service, so if you want to know about a curb, you can look it up that way, and it has the detailed org chart in it for each of the 6 divisions within Public Works. So that document is ready to come out. What we'll do is send it out tomorrow. Understanding this still has to go to council, but we know all of the key contact people, the key contact numbers, but what also is in that document is a service. So if you want to just look at, who do I call about a tree, you may not find it under forestry, but so we have it both ways, and that document will come back out tomorrow. We update it every 3 months for all of council, not just Public Work members. So we know that. So that will be out tomorrow, right after Public Works approves this today, understanding it will go to council, but we'll get that out to all of members of council first thing tomorrow.
And does this mean parks and roads will come up through the same, and waste collection through the same individual, ultimately the same director?
So through the chair, no, the parks, forestry, horticulture, cemetery are still under Craig Murdoch, Environmental Services. All of waste management is now under the Director of Operations, as well as all of the roads program. So we put that back together, and that's for moving forward. A lot of this is also driven by what the legislation is looking like with respect to the different services. So, the folks have been looking at that. So, especially with waste management, what's coming down, obviously everything's on hold right now, but there is significant issues, and we're preparing for that as we move forward.
Okay, and I'd really like the idea of one person on winter control because, Mr. Chairman, 2 years ago, we were really beat up as the service levels were unacceptable. In this last winter with an all-time record storm, but not only in snow, but also in ice and in cold, at least I got very few complaints on winter. I applaud that move to move forward. Stop shop, we have one person we can call. Fully support the recommendations, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson. Then Councillor Merlo.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and you'll allow for some comments later on about Director Scheinhall's.
Well, I dovetail it into your questions now would be probably
Could I do it now?
Yeah.
Well, let me just quickly say, Mr. Chairman, to Director Scheinhall, I have really mixed feelings, Brian, about Archer. I'm very happy for you from a personal and career standpoint. Yeah, you better not be taking any documents with you to the neighboring municipality. General Manager Davis on his exit survey on that, please. But Brian, you, I'll tell you, you got the big picture, but you weren't afraid at all to get the front line, support the front line. You always wanted taxpayers to get value for the money they paid, for the services provided. I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, Director Scheinhall was always available, no matter the issue, large or small, from a ward standpoint. Several times where extenuating circumstances was willing to meet on site, which doesn't happen often with a director at that level, but was more than willing to meet on site to try to find solutions. And Brian, you just have always, in roughly the 10 years, I'm going to say, give or take, that you've been here with us, you've always had a wonderful demeanor in terms of dealing with the public and your staff and members of council, and I'm going to miss you politically and personally enormously. So, but I wish you all the best and hope our paths cross often, Brian. Mr. Chairman, on the recommendation, so again, General Manager Davis, A part transferring all of waste. I always found that was a little bit of confusion because I'd call waste and they say, well, Councillor, is a curbside, go over here. If it's administrative, go over here. If you want to market or talk to your constituents communication-wise, it's over there. So this is all now combining it, Mr. Chairman, through you to General Manager Davis under operations?
Through the chair, that's correct, Councillor.
Okay, excellent. Secondly, on D part, the manager winter control, Acting Manager Bob Paul. Bob, you did an outstanding job this year with probably the most severest, frigid, freezing winter that we've probably had in a good 30 years. My buddies and I were saying we were used to these during school days, but probably in a good 20, 30 years hadn't seen a winter like that. So I'm really pleased, Mr. Chairman, that Jerry's establishing a full-time manager. Jerry, then dovetailing on that in the E part, does that mean then for the rest of the year you want to have as well a manager overall of the rest of roads operation outside of winter? Mr. Chairman, through you to General Manager Davis.
Through the chair, that's correct. With the technical side of the portfolio, that's the other manager position. And what we're doing there is we had a superintendent, we're creating a manager from that, but there's so many, and the escarpment crossings, for instance, and the other large item is the stormwater management facilities throughout the city. Again, there's so many standards and regulations. Want to dedicate the right resources to those as well.
And thank you, Jerry, on E and F for the continued cooperation, support of council's direction on waterfront development, putting in place a manager of waterfront, working closely with our great agency, the Waterfront Trust, and all the expertise there. That is a wonderful, I think, initiative you've taken there. And Mr. Chairman, under financial, you couldn't get better news for this overall organizational restructuring. It's going to generate a net positive variance, and so I'm strongly supportive. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jackson, Councillor Merla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just briefly on Brian Scheinhall's departure, I must say that it's quite remarkable and telling that when this council was all up in arms about the snow removal crisis that we were faced with a couple of years ago, Brian was there at the front lines taking the heat, even though he had nothing to do with it. And then when we amended the problems, or when he figured out what the problem was, he sent somebody else out to take all the credit for everything that happened this previous year. And I have to say that is very telling and something that I needed to say publicly because it was noticed and it was appreciated. And
thank you, Councillor Merla. Have Councillor Powers.
I'm going to build on what they've all said, but certainly on this report, I'd like to thank not only Brian but Rob Norman for their outreach on this. They made a point of getting to every one of the councillors to kind of gauge our response to what's being proposed, and I see in it some of the thoughts that were reflected by some of my colleagues in those dialogues, and I think part of the reason why we made this report because we were kind of all involved in the lead up to where it is. So I'm certainly supportive of the recommendations, and absolutely had no problems at all waiving it. There's been an evolution over the last number of years. Actually, it's after we went through, I'm going to call it the growing pains or the organization pains of amalgamations. Things calmed down, and I've seen, certainly during this term of council, a movement towards a more professional and business-like approach. We're not only seeing it here, but we're seeing it in our other divisions and that, and I think this is a progressive move. With regards to Brian, I think, like Councillor Jackson and myself, Brian, we go back a few years. You've aged well. I'm jealous you still have a head of hair, but like me, you should have pulled it out by now, whatever the case is. But I want to thank you. Certainly, we've had the dealings certainly through your progressions of advancement within the organizations, and you've always been a reasonable and practical individual. And we know you're just down the road in that, but we wish you well in your endeavors. I certainly. I was down in Niagara Falls on the weekend, and I bumped into the regional chair out of Niagara, who I quite well in that, so I half-heartedly lambasted him for stealing you away. But even though you'll be in Niagara, your heart will still always be in Hamilton. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Powers. I got Councillor McCaddy.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And just to begin with, on the report itself, it was great to see the manager of waterfront development identified in the staff under that category, because that is a huge priority for City Council, so that'll help us deliver that. I just had a question, though, on that. Wasn't sure I understood how that relates, Mr. Chair, Jerry, to the planning department and others who are involved in the waterfront work. I think of Chris Phillips, who we most often see here. There's Chris. Speaking to the issue here. So I just want to make sure that it's more of a corporate approach to the waterfront, and it's I'm just at this point just looking at this, and I'm sure there's an explanation, but just how that works together with PW and planning. Mr. Chair, through you to Jerry.
So through the chair, and I asked Chris Phillips to be here for that very reason. So, there's the implementation of the project. And so Public Works, because of, it's over $100 million along all our waterfront, we're dedicating a Public Works section to that and working closely with the Hamilton Waterfront Trust. There's all the other development issues that planning will be involved with, developers and all that, and Chris could speak to it better. So we're an arm of that, reporting to whoever's going to be, let me call it the waterfront guru, who's in charge of that. Public Works supports that. So, when the projects have to be done, that's where we'll be dedicated to. But as far as the overall development and everything involved that Al Dorr and Chris Phillips have worked on, that continues. We're just putting the structure in place for projects to get done as that development takes place. So we're not, we'll be hand in hand with them, but the Chris Phillips area is really, they have the expertise on how do we develop the waterfront. I hope that explains it.
Yeah, so I think that's it's great to see this position in place to fast track stuff, because that's what we're about in terms of the additional assessment we're after as council, and for Hamiltonians to have even a greater experience down at the waterfront than they have today. So I just encourage staff to continue to try and make sure that that's cohesive amongst the different departments, and we're working together. But it's great to see that focus, and I thank you for that, Jerry. And Brian, Mr. Chair, comment on Brian. Brian, I just, one of your great characteristics is the calm approach you bring to things. You've probably been told that before, and And a lot of these issues get quite emotional, whether it be winter control or after you're on the cycling stuff or clearing the bike lanes or whatever it might be. So, Mr. Chair, it's always been nice to have someone who responds in a very calm and highly professional manner. So certainly maintain that, as I know you will, Brian, in your next position. That's one of your key attributes in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Councillor Miller to take the chair. I certainly support the recommendation before, and I had the privilege of seeing and understanding where we're going through those presentations. On Brian, everything's been said that needs to be said, and I think there's united support for keeping you here, so you just tell us what that deal is. Where you really find the characters on the golf course, and I'm just ashamed that we never got to do that, Brian, but I wish you all the best, and maybe somewhere in passing we'll see you on the links. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Take the chair back. So we need a motion to move the recommendations. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Powers, second by Councillor Ferguson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Now we're at 8.1 Municipal Act Project Sanitary Storm Sewer on Eleanor Avenue. And I did talk to Councillor DeVell, and he is really keen to get this going. So Councillor Jackson.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not only keen to get it going, but I'm going to move an amendment, a D part, on behalf of Councillor DeVell, who I spoke to over the weekend at the conference, seconded by Ward 4 Councillor Sam Marula. And let me just quickly read it, and I apologize I didn't make copies quickly enough, but I think everyone saw my email exchange with Councillor DeVell, that in conjunction with the works identified in the report's recommendations, that staff also include the construction of sidewalks on the west side of Eleanor from Stone Church to Dolgarin, with additional funding coming from within existing public works budgets, possibly WIPs, favorable tenders, for example, and in consultation with the Ward 7 Councillor for additional potential other funding options. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Marula, that amendment.
Okay. I'm just looking, that's under the notice of motions.
Nope, that's a separate one. Totally separate issue. That's for Buff High School.
Okay. So do we need, I'm just looking to, is this part of a report?
This is an amendment to recommendation 8.1. This is the D part.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's moved by Councillor
second by
Jackson, second by Councillor Marula. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Carried.
Any opposed? Carried. Okay, Councillor Jackson.
Now I'll move to 8.1 as amended, please.
Moved by Councillor Jackson, second by Councillor Marula. All those in favor?
Carried.
Any opposed? Carried. Now we're on 9. There are any motions? Seeing none. Notice of motions. Item 10.1 is a notice of motion from Councillor Jackson respecting a tree removal.
I'm keeping it as a notice, Mr. Chairman.
Yet another one.
I'm keeping it as a notice. Thank you. Nope, I'm keeping it as a notice. Thank you.
10.2, notice of motion from Councillor Jackson on behalf of Councillor Val respecting sidewalk construction along south portion of Acadia Drive.
Now, this is the one I'd like to
on both sides of Upper
move
Sherman
to waive the rules. Second. By the plant grower, Councillor Marula, seconding it. Waive the rules.
Yeah. Carried. All those in favor?
Carried. Now,
any opposed? Carried.
And this is entirely on behalf of Councillor DeVal again, moved by myself, seconded by Ward 1 Councillor Brian McCaddy. And everyone has it in front of them there. And again, this is all in consultation with staff. We got a 500 name. I got a copy of it as well, because obviously it borders Councillor DeVal's area where Brebeuf High School is. But I got a copy as well from some of the organizers, the students of the petition. Student engagement, this is democracy in action at the grassroots level by our young people, which is great. I would just add at the bottom paragraph where it says, therefore be it resolved, where it says Stone Church Road, comma, the entire petition said, and both sides of Rymal from Upper Wellington to Upper Ottawa. So, Laurie, if you would just, please, that's a housekeeping, just to ensure that's commensurate with the actual petition. So, Mr. Chairman, the rules have been waived.
Where's the funding coming from? Sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
There's a report back to Public Works. It is set for
so there's two pieces that we just passed today that are competing for capital out of the capital program?
Potentially, but two separate areas, two separate items.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yep, great.
Yep. So, yep. similar to 1.6 million that we all approved for yourself, Mr. Chairman, and that was extra over and above the contract. So, Mr. Chairman, I move this, and staff are aware, it's 2017, but with the student body, over 2,000 students, people, no sidewalks on Upper Sherman, Rymel there, Arcadia Drive, they're just asking that staff possibly review, reconsider, and see what they can do to expedite. So, moved by myself, second by Councilor McCaddy.
All those in favor?
Carried.
Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now we have 11.1, discuss item 3 of Public Works Committee report. That was the Public Works Yard Review Strategy. I would ask Councillor Powers to take the chair. This is a report that came forward. What I picked up from my colleagues at Public Works was the issue of spending $90,000, or I think it was $75,000 more for the continuation of the Public Works strategy. I met with staff and I was very supportive because I believe that we have yards that will become surplus to our needs. We need to understand where they are and ensure that we capitalize on that through surplusing and selling them. So I indicated that I would support it through area rating dollars, which would be paid back when that occurs. So it was a money issue as far as I understood at the committee. So I'm going to take care of it through area rating, so just looking for support. You can't do it here, as I understand. It's going to be a reconsideration at council. This was just to ensure that my colleagues on the committee understood what was taking place. If there's any questions, staff is here to answer them.
I would thank the councillor for his generosity. I'll certainly support it coming out of area rating funds in order to fund that. Any members of my colleagues?
So that should be.
It has to be a reconsideration at council, so the new direction will come forward at council with that recommendation. Okay, anything further on it? Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the point that was brought up during the graffiti discussion a few weeks ago, I brought forward a motion that staff investigate the possibility of integrating a part-time summer student to firstly identify proactively graffiti throughout the city and then take steps, obviously, to remediate it. I've noticed that there's a proliferation of graffiti, more so now than ever before, and I continually see it on a daily basis, whether it be on public property or private. Just wondering what the status of that is, because we are close to the summer months. And so through you, Mr. Chairman, to who'd ever like to mention or talk on this issue. Bob?
Mr. Chair, as we were directed, we are using a summer student to review the city, as was requested through Councillor Marula. So that process is in place.
Wonderful. Now, so they're actively out there identifying on major arteries, on public roads, and on public property and so on?
Yes, Councillor, I can, that is the intent, to cover the city. I'll check with staff and get an update to your office.
Oh, that'd be greatly appreciated. And if I can have actually locations too that have been identified and cross-reference ones I have, it'd be greatly appreciated and assist accordingly. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Two quick things, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I understand as well, I like applauding when staff have achieved accomplishment at a higher level. Mr. Chairman, through you to General Manager Davis, I understand Director Rob Norman, there's something that Rob is going to be appointed to that, again, is good for the city, similar to Councillor Powers at AMO and similar to Tennessee Perpedo at the provincial level with parks and maintenance. Mr. Chairman, through you to Jerry.
So through the chair, Rob Norman is the president-elect for the, and I'll get this right, the Canadian Society of Landscape Architects. Previously, he was the chair of the Ontario, and he has that. So congratulations to Rob.
Congratulations, that's good. And quickly, Jerry, just downbound lanes were open as of last evening. I got a lot of yippies across the email, which was wonderful, Daryl, thank you. Now, between you, traffic manager Martin White, rush hour, using the down lanes are still closed.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just to start off, we have notification from our contractor today that in all likelihood they will be completed the work today, and then we'll be able to take steps to open the lanes, all the lanes on the Kenilworth, which will require no further traffic rerouting. So that,
Ask for it in writing.
I did not come in with that expectation, because you know I always come in to keep my expectations. Something pleasantly surprises me, I'm sure. For the public record, please.
again, through you, Mr. Chairman, we have been notified by our contractor that sometime during the afternoon, they will have completed all the work on the Kenilworth access. And as soon as the work is completed and they have demobilized, we will work with traffic staff to open all lanes, and there'll be no further rerouting required.
Fantastic news. Fantastic. Thank you. When that is actually in place, would you please send it to the dust?
Absolutely. There will be a public service announcement that will come out as soon as the work is completed and the lanes are open.
That's done. The Sherman access just stays at it. Always has stayed. Downbound rush hour, just downbound. Afternoon rush hour, just upbound. All back to the status quo.
That is correct. Through you, Mr. Chair, all back to the status quo.
Great news to start. Director Moore, engineering, geotechnical studies, everybody involved. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just a last comment that I thought you were going to speak to, but I'll speak to it, is I want to thank the response from staff and understanding and appreciating the premature closing of Claremont with the Kenilworth access being closed. We knew full well as mountain councillors it would have made our lives miserable, would have made your lives miserable, because we would have been miserable with the timing of those two closures. So we were very pleasantly surprised and happy to see the delay of the closure of Claremont and the understanding what kind of uproar that would have caused. So thank you. And motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Jackson, second by Councillor Powers. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.